Ark, published by Studio Wildcard and released in 2017, is an action-adventure video game of survival in which players must prosper while being stranded on an island littered with prehistoric animals and creatures of legendary folklore. Though released within the past 5 years, Ark exploits many aspects of fantasy-based video games in previous decades, games that, at the time, lacked the means to create next-generation graphics and storylines that define today's gaming industry. One of the main objectives of Ark is to develop your own settlement, which is sizable and efficient enough to sustain and improve the player's chance of survival. As seen in the image, the layout of the screen is relatively simple and easily accessible through the main menu, which will be shown later. The goal of building your own fortress and establishing power through physical construction is by no means a new aspect of video games. Minecraft, one of the most successful and recent exploration games, was released 10 years ago in November of 2011. More than 2 decades before Minecraft, SimCity was released to the public in 1989, followed by its sequel SimCity 2000, released in 1993. This open-world, building-based game inspired an entire franchise of video games designed for the player to improve their quality of life, which is the central objective for players of Ark. Only Ark has dragons and dinosaurs and other mythical creatures. It is important to not underestimate the power of mythical creatures in video games. Zach Penn mentions in his documentary Atari Game Over, released in 2014, that he is fascinated by urban myths and legends, and of course, Atari video games. Two things that seem pretty common amongst video game developers is this sense of wonder amongst mythical creatures and, of course, the legend of Atari. Adventure, a game released by Atari in 1980, featured a similar open-ended environment as shown in Ark, and, as seen in its cover, it also has dragons. As discussed in the reading Keeping the Game Alive, it has become increasingly more difficult for developers to preserve the much less advanced graphics and overall feel of these original games, considering technology has exponentially advanced since the 80s, 90s, and even the 2000s. So, while Ark displays immensely better graphics than Atari's action-adventure games of the 1980s, such as Yars' Revenge and Secret Quest, which is a game of fighting monsters, it still encapsulates the appeal of these much older games by incorporating all sorts of mythical and strange creatures. In order for video game developers to maximize profits in today's industry, they must abide by the technological advancements in order to sell their products on the biggest gaming platforms available, such as PlayStation and Xbox. The authors of Keeping the Game Alive also mention the importance of preserving multiplayer capability on consoles. Ark provides multiplayer and online gameplay, and the split screen, shown on the right-hand side of the image, is something that people no longer think of when they think of playing a video game with their friends. Because online play has swept multiplayer platforms, people can still play together on Ark on a split screen, while most people play together from the solitary of their own homes. Ark allows you to play with other people competitively and cooperatively, whether in the same room or across the country. After all, co-op games such as Mario and Combat made video games a social event with their multiplayer options during the 1970s and 1980s. Returning to the previously mentioned SimCity franchise, Ark assimilates the very interactive theme of building and preserving that made games like SimCity 2000 so popular. Paola Antonelli emphasizes the importance of interaction and the inclusion of preservation in such video games, arguing that these are aspects that are indicative of art. These games do permit virtually endless creative freedom and no limitation on a player's prosperity or enjoyment. Antonelli goes on to explain that video games can be truly deep while being completely mindless, and turns to Vib Ribon as an example. She states that this game, which was released for PlayStation in Japan in 1999, was one of the first video games where players can choose their own music. Ark has a similar feature, except you don't need a CD to do so. As such a customizable and creative game, Ark certainly contains many central themes of past free world games. Our reading of Antonelli's blog, which was published on the MoMA website, discusses the importance of time within the video game, suggesting that the length of experience greatly influences a game's perceptive value. Art definitely generates a more long-term experience with very little attention to time limitations. This provides an incentive for individuals to keep playing after mastering the basic skills and understanding of the game. There is no quote-unquote finish line, no ending to the capability of your character, meaning Ark eliminates the element of beating a video game. Players may also attempt to find Easter eggs around the Ark map, another tactic that has been used to encourage players to keep playing since the late 70s and early 80s. Just when you think you're done, another objective lies ahead. The development of Ark offers such a unique combination of old and new video game tactics. The game is simultaneously simple and complex, as it has simple rules and controls, yet a never-ending story. Its map actually bears resemblance to other earlier epic games such as The Legend of Zelda, providing seamlessly endless land to explore. The main menu is easy to navigate and displays images of supernatural creatures. Overall, Ark is a modern-day action-adventure game which has great attributes of older games that are so greatly desired, yet so easily forgotten. It is endlessly playable and surprisingly nostalgic. And these are my sources cited. Thank you.